Okay, then we're ready to start on time. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this webinar for applicants for the UTFORSK program. We are very pleased to finally have a new call in UTFORSK and glad to see that there seems to be a big interest in the program. This hopefully means many good applications and good projects and partnerships to be established in the years to come. My name is Unni Birkeland, and with me today I have my colleague
Synne Lisberg.
And together Synne and I will guide you through this presentation today. In this webinar, we will first introduce the new UTFORSK program and the major changes that have been done prior to this call. We will provide essential information about the call and important things to keep in mind when developing your applications. We will also give some tip and advice on how to write a good application for the program. The presentation will be recorded and later made available on our website. Any questions during the presentation can be written in the Q&A sections that you can find on the bottom of the webinar window. And we will try to answer as many questions as possible during the presentation. We will also have time for questions after the presentation is finished. The UTFORSK program is a central funding scheme under the government's strategy Panorama, a strategy for cooperation on higher education and research with Brazil, China, India, Japan, Russia, and South Africa. The first period of the strategy lasted from 2016 till 2020, but the strategy will be continued for a new period lasting 7 years from next year, from 2021 till 2027. The new strategy is still under development and will be launched early next year. But we already know that the main priorities from the current strategy will be continued. This means that interaction between higher education and research, connections to the labor market, trade and industry, mutual student exchange between Norway and the partner countries, and interaction between bilateral and multilateral cooperation will still be central elements of the strategy and also central goals for UTFORSK. All the same countries will still be included in the strategy, but in addition, 3 new countries will be added. These are Canada, the USA, and South Korea. UTFORSK will also be continued throughout the new Panorama period. And in the program document, you will find a tentative plan for future calls in this 7-year period. We already have made some adjustments to the program for this call as well. And one major change in UTFORSK is that Diku now has merged the previous programs for partnerships with prioritized countries outside Europe, which are the previous UTFORSK program, the partnership program with North America, the cooperation program with Russia, and the intern abroad program. So all these programs are now gathered in the new UTFORSK. The new countries that will be included in the Panorama strategy are also included in UTFORSK from now. This means that UTFORSK now includes Canada and the USA and South Korea as partner countries. As mentioned, the main priorities from the Panorama strategy are still important elements in UTFORSK, but a new results framework has been developed for the program, and this framework also includes implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. Two different calls have been published this year. One is for 4-year project funding with a funding frame of 3 million Norwegian kroner. This call is open for projects with partners in all the selected countries. There is also a call for 2-year project funding with a funding frame of 300,000 Norwegian kroner. This call is dedicated to the establishment of new partnerships with South Korea. The application deadline for both calls are February 1st, 2021. UTFORSK is meant to be a broad and flexible program that should reach the diversity of Norwegian higher education institutions and academic fields. UTFORSK supports long-term institutional partnerships between higher education institutions in Norway and the selected partner countries, both the establishment of new partnerships and the strengthening of existing relations. The overall aim of the program is to strengthen higher education for a sustainable future through strengthening international partnerships within areas of mutual and strategic interests between institutions in Norway and the relevant countries, and enhanced quality and relevance of study programs at the institutions involved. So now I will give the virtual floor to Synne.
Thank you, Unni. So it has been important for us when developing a new UTFORSK program to look at what we've want to achieve in the collaboration between Norway and prioritized countries outside Europe in the years to come. We have developed a theory of change, which can be found in the UTFORSK program document on our website, where we describe the context for goals that have been defined in the results framework. But at the same time as we are concerned with what goals are important to achieve at the program level, we emphasize that projects should be designed based on a needs assessment at the partner institutions and among all stakeholders. In other words, the applications should not seek to achieve all the goals presented in the results framework, but need to show how the expected results and effects identified for the projects are relevant to the program goals at all levels. So, for example, for output 1.1, mutual student exchange as part of institutional cooperation, some relevant project results could be new or revised institutional agreements, pre-approval or integration of joint courses and degrees. And as you will also see in the call, there is an emphasis on projects that aim to facilitate student mobility of minimum 3 months duration, both within and beyond the project. For output 2.1, integration of higher education and research, some results could be development of curriculum based on research collaboration or complementary expertise, student participation in research projects, research schools, field courses and field work, student participation in scientific dissemination. And for output 2.2, structures for mutual knowledge development and sharing between academia and non-academic partners. Possible results may be structures for internships and practices, research in or for business, projects in or for business, and guest lectures from non-academic partners. So, who can be involved in project as partners? The applicant institutions must be a Norwegian higher education institution. As this webinar is for both the calls under UTFORSK, I'd like to underline that there is a difference in what partners may be involved. In 4-year projects, the main partner must be a higher education institution from Brazil, Canada, China, India, Japan, Russia, South Africa, South Korea, or the US. While network partners may be higher education institutions and other organizations from the same countries. The project may be bilateral or multilateral collaborations, meaning that partners must be included, may be included from more than one partner country. In the 2-year projects, on the other hand, the main partner and network partners must all be South Korean. I should also remind you that the roles and responsibilities of main partners and network partners should be clearly outlined in the letters of commitment to be uploaded as attachments in the application. Even though project funding may not be used on activities for stakeholders that are not from the partner countries, we encourage projects to seek funding from other sources, such as the EU programs for education and research, to fund their participation. In the project description, we would like to see correspondence between needs assessment and project goals, and work plan and milestones. It is also important that you illustrate commitment from and mutual interest and benefit for all involved partners. As you will also see, we require the Norwegian applicant institution to include information about an administrative contact person for the project, and a financial contact person may be included. We have seen that the inclusion of such resources in the project planning and implementation strengthens the project team and is often necessary to succeed. For 4-year applications, we also require that you describe plans for how the project results will be sustained beyond the project period, and for how you will document, share, and disseminate new knowledge, practices, and experiences resulting from the project. Lastly, we ask you to include data for standard indicators, such as student mobility, courses, and potential other funding sources. But now let's talk about the budget. First, please read the budget guidelines that are in the appendix to the call. All costs that may be covered within the framework of the program are included here, and note that the rates provided will be index regulated annually. Also note that in order for us to understand your budget, a detailed description of how funds are planned to be spent and how costs have been estimated must be included. And cost effectiveness will be evaluated. As you will see, a maximum rate for salary and indirect costs is not specified for the 4-year applications, but costs included in these budget items must be reasonable and clearly connected to the implementation of project activities. Also note that project funds may not cover investments in infrastructure and scientific equipment, or costs related to research activities not clearly linked to educational activities. On contribution, in cash or in kinds, equivalent to a minimum of 20% must be made available from the project partners in applications for 4-year projects. In 2-year projects applications, this is not required, but should be included if such funds are made available. So, when you have submitted your applications and they are to be assessed by Diku, we will first see whether the applications meet the formal criteria stated in the call. And these criteria are that the applicant must be an accredited Norwegian higher education institution, that the other partners are from the partner countries, The applications must be written in English and submitted through Diku's application portal Espresso. And the deadline is final, the 1st of February at 12 o'clock Norwegian time. Also note that all attachments must be uploaded with the application, and those are CVs for project coordinators, in addition to letters of commitment from all the project partners. All applications meeting the formal criteria will then be assessed by the degree to which they meet the following selection criteria: the project's relevance to the goals of the program, the quality of the project design, the quality of the partnership, and impact and dissemination. For each of these criteria, the applications will be given a grade from 1 poor to 7 outstanding. These grades will be weighted according to the percentage specified for each criteria in the call, and all applications will be ranked based on the application's average weighted grades. And I will come a little bit back to this later on. So the first selection criteria is the application's relevance to the goals of the program. And here we again refer to the goals at all levels included in the results framework. As you will see in chapter 7 of the call, if 2 or more applications are given the same average grade from evaluators, applications with higher partial grade on project relevance, including long-term student mobility, may be ranked above the others. The second selection criteria is quality of the project design. Here what will be assessed is the overall clarity, coherence, and quality of the application, the quality of the needs assessment, the project's feasibility, and cost effectiveness and reasonable resource allocation. And please also note that correspondence between the budget, planned activities, and project goals will be evaluated, and it will be assessed whether the budget is in compliance with budget guidelines. The third selection criteria is quality of the partnership. Here, the evaluators are asked to assess the complementarity of the partners, composition of the project team and their expertise and experience, the distribution of tasks and responsibilities among the partners, and the level of formalized commitment as stated in the letters of commitment. And lastly, the potential for long-term collaboration between the partners. And last but not least, the evaluators will assess the impact and dissemination of project results, included expected impact of the project, the likelihood of results being sustained, and the quality of the plan for dissemination of project results. This criteria will only be evaluated for the 4-year project applications. So in short, the allocation process can be summed up like this. First, there is a formal assessment of all applications. Then each application will be evaluated according to the selection criteria. And each application will be evaluated by 2 people, one from Diku and one representing the higher education sector. These evaluators will constitute a committee which will discuss the applications in a meeting where all evaluators are present and rank the applications according to their average grade. The committee will make a recommendation based on the ranked list of the applications. The award decision will be made in Diku based on the recommendation from the committee. However, as mentioned before, If 2 or more applications are given the same average grade, applications with higher partial grade on the selection criteria project relevance, including long-term student mobility, may be ranked above others. The geographic distribution of the project portfolio may also come into consideration. All applicants will be notified about the outcome in late April or early May. And please also note that all allocated projects will be required to enter into a contract with Diku before project funds are transferred. And then the project may start up in August 2021. And then I'll give back the virtual floor to Unni.
Thank you, Sinna, and thank you for the detailed information on the call. In this part, we will remind you about some important things to keep in mind when developing your application. Some of this is probably already well known, but important things cannot be said too often. So first of all, preparation is key. Remember to read the call and the program document carefully. This is important to get a good understanding of the background and framework for the program, and also to understand the program goals and the formal criteria that must be fulfilled. Then think about the application as a story to be told. Help the readers understand what you want to achieve and how you plan to do that, and also why this is important. And if you have any questions or uncertainties, please feel free to contact Diku for advice at any time. While developing the application, it is also important to keep in mind the different evaluation elements in the call and to make sure that they are answered. Address the program goals, make sure you meet all eligibility criteria, answer the selection criteria, and also remember that the budget is part of the application and will be evaluated. And thus it needs to be reasonable and in line with the budget guidelines. We wish to see that both the cooperation or the partnerships and the results from the project cooperation are safe, meaning that they are sustainable or likely to last also beyond the project period, embedded at the involved institutions and organizations at a relevant level in the study program and so on, institutionalized and formalized. So by the end of this presentation, we would like to point out some weaknesses that are frequently observed in applications that are not funded and that obviously should be avoided. Narrative of the application is unclear, or project description is not detailed and specific enough. This makes it difficult for the reader to understand what you want to achieve, how you plan to do it, and why this is important or useful. Are there sufficient support and demand for these activities at the institutions? Complementarity to other projects. What is the added value to projects already established or completed? And this point is especially relevant for projects with parallel or previous funding from UTFORSK or from other Diku programs. What is new in this project and what is the added value? It must be clear from the application. Commitment and mutual interest from all partners is uncertain. Lack of institutional foundation. If few persons are involved in a project, successful implementation and sustainability of results might be at risk. Goals and activities are disconnected. It is not clear from the application how the planned activities will lead to achieving the goals of the project. An overemphasis on one-way mobility might also weaken the application. And sustainability is uncertain, meaning that it might be questioned if there are any plans for continuing the activities and results after the project ends. Will the project result in something that can be carried forward also beyond the project period? This should be reflected on and considered in the applications. On our website, you will find some examples from projects funded by Diku. Some can be found on the UTFORSK website, and there are also examples from the previous programs supporting cooperation with North America, Russia, and the Intern Abroad program that could be relevant for you to have a look at. We hope that you will find these examples inspiring while developing your own applications and projects. So please feel free to contact us with any questions you might have by email or by phone. Contact information and program information can all be found at diku.no.